The true story behind Bob Marley's Buffalo Soldier is a secret the music industry never wanted you to hear. This song contains a hidden history they tried to bury for decades. You must stick around until the end, because the final revelation about this anthem's true meaning will change how you see music forever. The story begins in the ashes of the American Civil War. The war had ended, slavery had fallen, but freedom was still an illusion written in trembling ink. The newly emancipated men who once tilled plantations now faced a different battlefield, one where opportunity and discrimination marched side by side. In 1866, the United States Congress authorized the creation of 6 all-black regiments. From them emerged the 9th and 10th Cavalry and the 24th and 25th Infantrymen, who would come to be known, with time and toil, as the Buffalo Soldiers. They were soldiers in name, but survivors in truth. Most had been slaves, sharecroppers, or sons of bondage. Yet, in uniform, they saw a promise, however faint, of dignity, purpose, and pay in a land that had long denied them both. They rode westward into the wilderness of a nation still young and cruel. Their mission was to build, to guard, and to fight. Building roads where there were none, protecting settlers heading west, defending the borders, and engaging in battles that history would call the Indian Wars. Their courage was legendary, their treatment disgraceful. They were given the worst horses, the oldest weapons, and stationed at the harshest posts where heat and isolation tested every measure of faith. But through storms, dust, and blood, they endured. Native American tribes who crossed paths with them began calling them Buffalo Soldiers. Some said it was because their tightly coiled hair reminded them of the sacred buffalo's mane. Others believed it was their unmatched endurance in battle, their fierce, unwavering spirit that earned them the name. To these native warriors, the buffalo was not merely an animal. It was a symbol of strength and sacred power. The name, though born in the language of their adversaries, became a crown the black soldiers wore with pride. They fought for a country that still questioned their humanity. They faced racist officers who despised their very presence in the ranks, yet they maintained discipline and valor that earned them respect on battlefields, where respect was rarely given. They received over 20 medals of honor, a silent testimony that courage has no color, even if recognition does. Through deserts, canyons, and mountain passes, they became the backbone of America's expansion, a paradox written in black and white. Yet, there was tragedy in their triumph. In helping secure the American frontier, the Buffalo Soldiers also became instruments of the very oppression that had once enslaved them. They helped drive Native Americans from their ancestral lands, expanding a nation that had never embraced them. It was the cruel poetry of history, victims of injustice, unknowingly aiding another people's suffering. Bob Marley understood this duality deeply. He saw that the Buffalo Soldiers' story was not just about bravery. It was about identity torn between duty and conscience, between survival and freedom. When Marley picked up that story more than a century later, he transformed it from history into prophecy. Stolen from Africa, brought to America, he sang, his voice floating like smoke through the soul of the song. Those words were not just about soldiers, they were about every descendant of the African diaspora. The Buffalo Soldier became a metaphor for the black man's eternal battle, stolen, displaced, and yet still fighting to live, to matter, to be seen. Fighting on arrival, fighting for survival, those 6 words captured the weight of generations. For the enslaved who fought to stay alive, for the freedmen who fought to be respected, for the soldiers who fought both enemies abroad and hatred at home. It was not only a historical lyric, it was a universal cry for anyone who has ever been forced to battle for their place in a world built to deny them. The genius of Bob Marley was not just in what he said, but how he said it. The reggae rhythm behind Buffalo Soldier pulsed like marching drums echoing through time. Its steady bass line carried the weight of footsteps on dry earth. Its melody danced between sorrow and pride, between pain and defiance. In that rhythm lived the heart of Africa, the same rhythm that beat beneath the chains of the Middle Passage, that whispered in plantation songs, that thundered in Marley's voice as he sang for freedom. When he said, "If you know your history, then you would know where you're coming from. It was not a lyric, it was a commandment. Marley was calling on his people to remember. To remember the warriors who carried weapons through deserts. To remember the mothers who carried pain through centuries. To remember that liberation begins with knowledge. That the road to Zion starts with understanding the road from captivity. Marley's Rastafarian faith burned through every note. He saw himself and his brethren as spiritual soldiers, modern buffalo soldiers, fighting not with weapons, but with truth, unity, and faith in Jah. The dreadlocks were their banners, the drums, their weapons, the word, their revolution. To Marley, the buffalo soldier was not a relic of American history. It was a living spirit that marched across continents and centuries. It was the same fire that burned in Ethiopia's resistance against colonialism, the same defiance that rose from the Caribbean plantations, the same hope that pulsed in every freedom fighter who refused to kneel. Through Buffalo Soldier, Marley drew a bridge between the past and the present. He used the soldier's story as a mirror to show the world that the struggle of the oppressed is one continuous battle, one that evolves, but never ends. The buffalo became a symbol not of America's westward conquest, but of Africa's unbreakable spirit. And yet, there was beauty in the sorrow. Beneath the melancholy of the lyrics lay triumph. The very act of telling the story was victory. Because for centuries, the buffalo soldiers were written out of textbooks, erased from glory, and buried beneath the myth of the American frontier. Marley resurrected them with rhythm. His voice made the forgotten unforgettable. The song's heartbeat transcended borders. In Jamaica, it spoke to the ghetto youth yearning for identity. In Africa, it echoed like an anthem of return. In America, it forced the children of those same soldiers to ask what their ancestors truly fought for. Every chord reminded the world that music is not just entertainment, it is education, liberation, and remembrance. When Bob Marley performed Buffalo Soldier, he was doing more than singing. He was preaching history in melody. His audience swayed, unaware that behind the sweet groove lay a story of exile, oppression, and divine resilience. That was his genius, to make the world dance to its own conscience. Today, the legacy of the Buffalo Soldiers lives not only in military records, but in rhythm and soul. Their courage inspired generations of Black soldiers who came after them. Their endurance became a lesson to all who still face injustice. And Marley's song remains a reminder that the fight is never just physical, it is spiritual. The Buffalo Soldier became every man who stands his ground against impossible odds, every woman who refuses to surrender her dignity, every child who learns that his ancestors were not slaves, they were survivors. Through the timeless pulse of reggae, Bob Marley turned their march into music, their pain into poetry, their struggle into strength. He transformed a footnote of history into a universal anthem of identity. Buffalo Soldier is not just a song, it is a mirror reflecting the spirit of endurance that defines the Black journey from chains to consciousness, from survival to self-knowledge. So when the drumbeat begins and the words return, there was a Buffalo Soldier in the heart of America. You can almost hear the hooves on the dust, the cry of freedom beneath the sun, and the echo of Marley's voice reminding us, know your history, know your worth. Because the Buffalo Soldier still rides in every soul that refuses to bow, and in every rhythm that refuses to die. Now you know the untold history behind one of reggae's most powerful anthems. Tell me how this story changes your understanding of the song. Let me know if you were aware of this hidden history before today. Share which part of this revelation impacted you the most in the comments. Make sure to follow for more uncovered truths about the music that shaped our world.